I'm here at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport today. I've checked in, I've got my boarding pass, and I'm on my way to Doha. So I'm actually super excited today. I'm flying on the A380 in business class. The main thing I'm looking forward to is the onboard bar. Let's go have a look. I won't focus too much on the ground experience in Paris today as the Qatar Premium lounge was still closed when I visited. Check-in was fairly quick using the business class counters, and I was directed to use the American Airlines Admirals Club lounge instead. There's not much to say about this lounge. There were some cold carts and soft drinks at the front, and then a bunch of seating where I waited for boarding to commence. Not quite the same standard as the closed Qatar Paris lounge, but I'll be doing a tour of the huge Mourjan lounge in Doha when I land, so stick around to see that. And stick around to see the big mistake I made there, which may or may not involve this beanbag, and how my transit ended in disaster. But first, let's make our way to the A380 we're flying on today. Business class takes up the majority of the upper deck on the A380, which means we get to board directly on top via the jet bridge. I'm greeted by name as I present my boarding pass, and I'm directed to my window seat, 11K. There's no champagne offered until we're in the air, so I went with an orange juice for my pre-departure beverage. This was served with a hot towel, which is always appreciated. I had a look at the menu for today's flight, and the cabin crew came to take my order whilst we were still on the ground. Qatar offers dine on demand in business class, which means you can choose whenever you want to eat instead of at the same fixed time for everyone. Since I was keen to check out the onboard bar, I opted to eat straight after takeoff to line my stomach a bit before the drinks started flowing. And before we do take off, let's have a look around the seat. Storage is plentiful here. We've got a storage bin on either side. The outside one is where you'll find the headphones, and the inner side one is a bit bigger. And the unique feature of the A380 is the huge storage bins right under the window, so you definitely won't be short of storage space with this seat. Then, we've got a water bottle holder next to the safety cards. Just below that, there's the IFE remote. A bit ahead, we've got a decent set of seat controls with preset positions, headphone port to the side, and the international power socket tucked underneath. Up above, we've got individual air vents, which helps when the cabin gets hot overnight. The IFE screen ahead, which I admittedly didn't use as I spent most of my time at the bar. And finally, the large pull-out dining table. Now, let's get in the sky and start the meal service. The champagne continued after takeoff, served with warmed almonds, which kept me busy until my table was set up and the amuse-bouche served. A bread basket with butter, salt, pepper, and vinaigrette is also kept alongside throughout the courses. Next up, my poached lobster with seared scallop starter. I wasn't expecting this to be cold, but it was tasty nonetheless. For mains, I wanted the braised ossobuco, but they'd run out, so I opted for the poached Atlantic salmon instead. This is also super tasty. For dessert, I had blueberries and strawberries covered in rose syrup. And I had just about enough space to squeeze in a cheese course before my stomach reached capacity. The moment I've been waiting for, the Qatar A380 onboard bar. I started with a champagne cocktail, and throughout my time here my glass was kept topped up by the friendly crew, and I had a selection of other cocktails and snacks. Having been on the A380 bars of all the ME3 carriers, Emirates, Etihad, which isn't really a bar, and Qatar, I would say that Qatar is by far my favourite. It's a decent size, the layout is great for chatting with other passengers, and I love the small touches like the illuminated bottles and the chandeliers. After a few more drinks, it was time to check out the toilets. These were regular sized plain toilets, but the styling in business class was a touch nicer with wood finishes, mood lighting, deep amenities, and a full length mirror behind. I ended up back at the bar for the rest of the flight, having more drinks and chatting with people that I'd met. I can't actually remember if there was a second meal service, but I'm pretty sure I skipped it in favour of staying at the bar. I made my way back to my seat close to the landing and found a small box of chocolates had been placed there. One last thing before we land, the amenity kit. This is the first time I've seen the diptyque amenities presented in the cardboard box as opposed to the usual leather bags. I believe this was an eco-initiative by Qatar Airways and is only done on certain routes, as all my other Qatar flights after this one had the leather kits. Inside you can find body lotion, face cream, fragrance, lip balm, and some socks. No toothbrush here, but there's a big stash of them in the toilet drawers. Time flew past on this flight, and before I knew it, we were descending into Doha. I always love flying Qatar, and today was no exception. The crew was super friendly and approachable as always, the food was great, and the novelty of enjoying a drink at a bar in the sky was definitely the highlight. I was glad to have finally experienced this since Qatar will be retiring their A380 fleet in the near future. Sadly, the flight was over. I disembarked and started making my way through transit security on my way to the world's biggest business class lounge. Okay, so I've just arrived at Doha Hamad International Airport. I'm about to make my way up to the Al Mourjan business class lounge, so let's go have a look, and then we're going to take a flight over to Ho Chi Minh City. Let's go. The lounge entrance is towards the A gates, where an attendant will scan your boarding pass at the bottom of the escalators. Welcome to the Al Mourjan Business Lounge. To the left is the bulk of the lounge, and to the right you can find one of the most over-the-top features of any business class lounge in the world. A massive water feature right by a spiral staircase and an impressive chandelier. This really sets the tone for the scale of the lounge. There are two restaurants here, one up the spiral staircase, which I'll check out later, and one at the far end of the lounge, which I made my way to. This is a more casual dining area with an incredibly high ceiling, serving mainly toasted sandwiches. I went for the smoked salmon tartare, which is a favourite of mine, and another glass of champagne. Now, let's have a look around the lounge. There's a central area on an elevated platform with a variety of seating options. Some on the edges, some in semi-partitioned areas in the middle, and even more seating on either side of the platform. Then, there's a quieter room separated by sliding glass doors with more seating and some semi-private lounges for resting or sleeping, with blankets available on request. An unnecessarily large business centre with a bunch of desks and computers. In all my visits here, I've never seen more than a few people in here. Also a games room with a PS5 and Xbox, and there used to be a table football here, but it seems to have been removed. Even the toilets look nice and are kept very clean. Shower rooms can be booked, although there's usually a wait for these at peak times. If you do manage to get a slot, these are very nice. There's plenty of space and they come fully stocked. A good shower between two long haul flights makes all the difference. Feeling refreshed, I made my way up the spiral stairs to the main restaurant. As you walk in, there are small bites and buffet options available, but you can also order from an a la carte menu. I started with another glass of champagne, which was followed by a beef tenderloin steak with tarragon sauce. And just as my camera fell, so did I, into this beanbag where I intended on waiting for my departure in an hour. Or so I thought. So, quick update. I had a 3-hour transit here at Doha. Sat on this beanbag in the games room, fell asleep, and missed my flight. Next one was in 24 hours. As nice as this lounge is, 24 hours was a lot of time to kill, so I managed to book one of the sleeping rooms which are available on a first come first served basis. And whilst I think about my first ever missed flight and the hole I just burnt in my pocket from having to pay the fare difference for a new onwards ticket, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.